Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Kia ora tato. Thank you so much for tuning into our webinar. My name is Sara Kulins, and I'm the Education and Outreach Manager at Sir Peter Blake MERC, where we lead the coordination of Sea Week. Sea Week is the national celebration of the sea, and our mission is to excite and inspire everyone to renew their connections with the sea. Our pinnacle of events, it occurs annually at the beginning of March and features a wide variety of ocean-inspired activities throughout the country. I'm going to launch a poll really quickly just to see where you guys are tuning in from. And if there we go, it should come up on your screen right now. I'm so glad that you're here today because we're launching our brand new educator's guide. And I'm going to introduce myself properly and our other guests before we get into this resource that we have for you to download today. If you could, yeah, just give us a second. Okay, my name is Sara, and I have a background in marine science. I've been working as a marine educator for the past 10 years. My world quite literally revolves around the ocean. I am a keen sailor, diver, and almost daily ocean swimmer, obsessed with the water and all the amazing life that lives within it. Also here with me this afternoon is Patrick Burnham, who is the residential manager at Sir Peter Blake Marine Education and Recreation Center. He is a self-proclaimed nudie brank and octopus lover, and all-around marine education enthusiast with about 14 years of experience. And as you may have guessed, we're both huge fans of everything ocean, which is why we love doing what we do at Sir Peter Blake MERC, where our mission is to provide safe, fun, high-quality marine environmental education and recreation experiences for young New Zealanders. We organize activities year-round to create opportunities for everyone to learn something new about our ocean, gain insight into different perspectives, and ask questions. Sea Week is one of those things that we organize, aside from the fact that we run a residential facility that has kids and community groups and activities for sometimes for all different groups here at our facility at the edge of the Long Bay Okura Marine Reserve. Today's webinar is going to feature a presentation from a special guest who will be joining us virtually later on. And she is Rika Milne, learning designer for Marine Stewardship Council since 2019. Rika has worked in a variety of ocean-related roles, including 10 years as a teacher, 10 years as a teacher and a program coordinator for a tertiary marine studies program. Rika has amassed a variety of ocean-related experiences in several roles over the past 30 years, including working as a commercial skipper and dive instructor. Thank you for taking a second to answer that poll. It's nice to see that we've got people tuning in from across the entire country, which is really awesome. And thank you to all of you that are joining this Sea Week webinar for the first time. That's really awesome. There's a lot of you. I'm going to dive in just a second. We're going to dive in. Patrick is going to set the scene, and then I'm going to provide a brief overview of ocean literacy, introduce our brand new educator's guide, which you'll be able to download soon. And then we'll be sharing some more quick demonstrations and a few activities and resources. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to Patrick for a minute.
Kia ora, everyone. I hope everything sounds good on your ends. Wonderful. So like Sara said, we're going to just jump right in and kind of set the scene today. And I'll spend some time going through a little bit more of this stuff as we go along. But to kind of set that stage. All right. So you can't really tell. Don't read any of that, but that's okay. I have my 20-liter bucket of water here, and this is going to help us kind of set the stage. I know I can't necessarily interact with all of you, but I want you to think about this bucket of water. 20 liters, it's a lot, it's a big bucket. What do we think that this bucket represents? Very important. Earth is called Earth, but you can also call it that little, that pale blue dot, in that ocean planet. So all of this here, this water is actually representative of all the water on our planet. And it's a lot, it's fixed here. Water doesn't escape our atmosphere, it stays here. It moves through many different cycles and in different reservoirs across the planet, but water. So we have a lot of water here, which is really great. 70% of our planet is covered in water. So it is the majority of our surface area. But even more than that, if we took our planet and we cut it and we're able to look at the 3D model, we have a lot more space that the ocean takes up. 99% of the Earth's habitable space is actually below the surface of the water, which is crazy to think about. We as humans don't really interact with that realm of habitable space in the ocean, or on our planet, but the majority of habitable space is not actually what we see on the quote unquote surface of our planet. So really important, had to set that stage. We have 70% of our water, our Earth is water, 99% of that habitable space, and we have all of this water here. Okay, now, really important, I have another smaller container. Okay, these are all wonderful household items that you can use for things. We have all of water on our planet, that fixed amount of water, which is great. I'm going to hopefully not get myself too wet or spill it everywhere. Cool. We have the second reservoir of water here. So we go from big 20 liters down to about half a liter. Okay, what do we think that now these two water reservoirs depict? What do we think? So this is all water on our planet. How come I pulled out this, or what does this represent? I'll give you all just a little bit. I feel like Dora the Explorer on TV because I can't actually interact with any of you, but that's cool. So we have this big amount of water. It is our what? It is our salt water. Okay, so this now, we had all water on our planet. Both of these two things represent all water on our planet. We now have this larger reservoir. This is our salt water. This reservoir here is our fresh water. Okay, so even from the beginning, this first step, out of all the water on our planet, look how much is salt, look how much is fresh. Out of all of the water on the planet, 97% is actually in the ocean and is salt. Okay, so it's a huge amount of water. And remember, water covers most of our planet, so the majority of it is actually salt and therefore undrinkable, unusable by us, unless we do some creative things to get it to this point here with our fresh water. Cool, great, first step. Awesome. Next. It's a little big because I'm not even going to use all of this, but if you just watch nice and carefully, we're going to take this and I'm going to take out some water here, roughly 15 mils. Perfect. We now have 3 reservoirs. Talked about this, salt water, talked about this. These two things together represent our fresh water, but now how are they different? So we have, I'm not sure if you all can see it, it's not a lot of water. Okay, swirl it around there. They're both fresh water, but how are these two fresh waters actually different? Give you all a second to think about it as well. Cool. This fresh water here is our inaccessible fresh water. There's fresh water that is trapped in places that we cannot access it. So we're thinking things like ice in our poles, Antarctic, and our Arctic. So our water that is actually physically trapped, that we can't actually use it, and not even use it in a way like we could. Some people could go down to Antarctica and grab some ice and bring it back and all the things, but it's still not necessarily usable. And it's not melting. hopefully not melting, but it is trapped in our poles in places. This is our accessible fresh water. So we start back from all the water on our planet and salt water down to inaccessible fresh water, then down to accessible fresh water. Okay. But we still have one more step to go. Our handy droppers. Cool. I'm now going to take literal 1 drop of water. That just ran straight off my finger. It's okay. Cool. 1 drop of water out of all of this. And I know you all can't see, but I'm telling you, it's there. It's our drop of water. So now we have 4 different reservoirs. Saltwater, inaccessible freshwater, accessible freshwater. So this can be like our freshwater in streams, our freshwater in rivers, our freshwater in lakes. It's freshwater that we interact with. Us here at Sir Peter Blake MERC, we have accessible freshwater right out front in a little stream. Would I go out and drink that fresh water? Not at all. Okay, so it is there, it is fresh water, but it's not anything that necessarily is accessible. So this tiny little drop is actually our potable water, water that we can actually physically drink and be okay to drink. So this kind of lines up and shows that we have so much water on our planet, and it provides a lot of habitat, it takes up a lot of space, but most of it's our ocean. It's salty. And then the stuff that is freshwater and not salty, we can't get. And then the stuff that we can get to isn't necessarily drinkable. And then finally, the amount that's actually drinkable is such a tiny fraction of what is available as water to us. So this is to kind of help set a scene. It sets our scene because when we work backwards and we think about water on our planet, not a lot of it is actually fresh water. The majority of all this water that's on our planet is in our ocean. And if most of the water in our ocean brings us to what Sarah's going to talk about next. You're on mute, Sarah, sorry.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're just gonna just finding some video settings, and can't see you guys, so sorry. All right. Really sorry, guys. Just have a bit of a glitch happening on my end, and sorry, Patrick. Gonna have to stop that screen share for just a second. Okay, here we go. We're gonna try that one more time. And magic. Okay. So hopefully you can see the presentation, right, Patrick? Yeah. We are going to talk about what is ocean literacy for a quick second. What is ocean literacy? The understanding of how the ocean influences us and how we influence the ocean. And we're going to talk about the key aspects of ocean literacy, and then you guys can download the guide. So some of the key aspects of ocean literacy are understanding the ocean's functions, the ocean's impact on climate, how biodiverse it is, and the human impacts that we have on the ocean. All of those have been decided by a network of individuals and organizations as some of these key principles, which is how we've come to have these 7 ocean literacy principles feature in this guide. So we kind of just touched on what ocean literacy is, and I'm hoping that the visual representation that Patrick's just done for us is going to help kind of highlight why ocean literacy is important. But in a few words, we'll say it's because from understanding comes caring, right? I can't quote someone because I can't remember who said that first, but from understanding the ocean, we have more people that are feeling responsible and feeling like caretakers of the environment. And that leads to better, more sustainable practices, more informed decision making, and engagement. Empowers individuals to participate in ocean conservation initiatives and advocacy. So I'm gonna just got the resources tab at the bottom for you guys. And what I'm just gonna do in a moment is make sure that you guys can access our brand new guide to download right now. I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a moment because I can't see where that went. So if you look at the resources tab at the bottom, it should be popping up right now under documents. So please let us know in the chat if you can't find it, but it should just come up on your screen for as a downloadable PDF. I'm monitoring the chat to make sure that you can get to it. And we'll go back to screen share. Patrick, maybe just let me know if anyone's having any issues. We'll go back to this preview that I've got on my screen while it's downloading for you. So the Ocean Literacy Educators Guide, we've just designed it for learners ages 10 and up. We'd like to think that this is going to be really ideal for intermediate learners, but it is so adaptable because we've left a lot of stuff pretty loose so that educators can adapt for the stage that their learners are in. So today we're just going to give you a quick overview of those ocean literacy principles. I'm fairly certain that ocean literacy might be a bit foreign to some of you. So we're going to just dive into those principles in a little bit of detail this afternoon, and then do a few more demos. We've got our guest speaker and another guest speaker, and then we will send you guys on your way. And hopefully you guys can give us some really great feedback about this guide and how you've been using it. And hopefully you've got some ideas for how to celebrate Sea Week in your classrooms or in your learning spaces. So we found that these activities are simple to do and great for a lot of ages. So whether I'm hoping that we've got on here some a real range of teachers that might be willing to just give it a go with their students, even if they are a little bit younger, and we'd love to hear how that goes. So the procedures are pretty brief, so they can be adaptable to your learning environment. By the way, you can use the Q&A function. I'm great. I can see you guys in the chat. Thank you for telling me that you've been able to download it. It gives me a little boost of confidence. Please send us your questions at any time using the Q&A function. Patrick has just introduced Principle 1 to you, but let's see how it looks in the guide. So let's look at it. This is just on our first page. That's an overview of all 7 of them, but we're going to dive into just Principle 1. So each page, as you guys might be seeing right now, has an activity, a featured activity, and then 3 little sections at the bottom that are going to send you to external resources and additional places to expand on those principles. So the activities we've chosen are for the key concepts. They don't necessarily cover all of the concepts within each principle, but if you wanted to dive into even more detail, we can point you in the right direction to see how you can expand on each of the concepts within each principle. So by completing the activity, the idea is that the learners can gain a greater understanding of the importance of the ocean and its interconnectedness with all of Earth's processes. So looking at it a little bit in a broad overview of it, the activities kind of look like teaching ocean literacy principles through a hands-on approach. And that will just build understanding. And what resources are included? So like I said, each one has a featured activity, and then we have the section at the bottom that's got a variety of resources. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about Principle 1, and then we'll move on. I'm going to pass it back over to Patrick for a moment. He's going to introduce these and then hand over All right, I'm gonna stop screen share. There you go.
Awesome. Cool. Hi, everyone, again. Thank you so much for taking a look at those, the download. So I'm just gonna go through and kind of walk through what they look like, and what the guides look like, and walk through some of the activities with you. So first one right off the bat, Ocean Literacy Principle 1, the world is one big ocean with many features. Like Sarah said, the activities that we kind of have on there are not the one thing to do for, ocean literacy principle number 1. There's so much to unpack in just that one statement. The world has one big ocean with many features. It's really, our ocean is just one giant ocean with many basins in it, even though we kind of think of them as separate oceans. There are many features. There's salt water, there's interacting with fresh and salt water. So there's so many things. The drop in the bucket activity is the demo that I kind of gave at the beginning here. It is a great attention grabber. It's a great putting into context, setting that scene, and kind of going through things. But as you can see, it's not the only thing to do for OLP 1. You have all these other facts in here. You have geological features of the ocean. They're not static. So you can talk about tectonic plates. You can talk about different types of habitats in the ocean, from continental shelves to plateaus to the abyss to a bunch of these different places. And the fact that the ocean can change over time. We've had more and less ocean. Well, compared to land, I suppose. The water, again, stays the same, but it changes how it interacts with the land, which is cool. Seawater has unique properties, another big component of Ocean Literacy Principle 1, where we can talk about why it's so important that our ocean is salty, or where did that salt come from? Why is it there? Do the animals that live there have to deal with that saltiness? Does that change anything? So having more salty, or having water that's more salty, makes it more dense, so you're more buoyant in the ocean than you are in fresh water. So there's lots of fun things to add in there, and all of these things relate back to that ocean literacy principle. Circulatory system for our ocean is also really important. How nutrients and temperature and currents move things in our oceans. So it kind of lays out, the beginning part of the guide lays out a little bit more of those, what is a part of the first ocean literacy principle. Yeah, and that's our drop in the bucket. You can kind of read through, and since I already did that demo, I'm not going to spend too much time on that one, where we have, the larger reservoir of water, and then moving down into accessible and non-accessible, and then drinkable water. Cool. If you have questions on Ocean Literacy Principle 1 in this activity, you can go ahead and chuck it in the chat. We are looking at it, but I'm gonna, since it's already up on the screen, we're gonna talk about Ocean Literacy Principle 2. The ocean and life in the ocean shape the features on Earth. So not just that the ocean has different features, but that the ocean actually interacts with the shapes and features of Earth. We see this all the time. MERC is right on the beach. Our beach changes constantly with different storms, high, low tides. We have that interaction with the ocean, and it causes many changes. We have, erosion is a big talk around New Zealand right now, with lots of things happening. But you can also get sand depositing elsewhere and having to constantly have to shovel out sand. So the ocean is always changing and always interacting with Earth, with the land, and causing those shifts. So our activity for Ocean Literacy Principle 2 is making your own sedimentary rock. So we have different types of rocks. I know you all probably know a lot of this stuff, which is great, amazing. Between our sedimentary rock and our igneous rock and all the things. But building a sedimentary rock is what can be really cool, because it's what happened. Our ocean can actually make rocks, and especially our sedimentary rocks. When sediment and things get into the ocean, especially out deeper in that ocean, that compress things and can make rock. So you can follow this through, you can get all these things. It's really fun, especially if you get a bunch of different food and you have the kids kind of pressurize it together and make their own rock, which is kind of cool. It's exactly what the ocean does with a bunch of the sediments that get in there. So that's ocean literacy principle 2. On to ocean literacy principle number 3. The ocean has a major influence on weather and climate. This is a really important one that can be really important to do these hands-on activities for the more complex concepts. So we have this activity is ocean currents and weather in a pan. And it's really cool. It's a virtual representation of the process that helps transfer heat around the globe, and how oceans are really massive conveyor belts of energy and therefore heat getting absorbed in the poles and then moving up to the outer poles, which is really great. Cool. I'm going to jump into, since we're moving right along, which is really great. Ocean literacy principle number 4. I'm actually going to move our buckets because we're going to do another slight demo here. This is one of my more favorite ones. Gotta clean up and set up for this next one. So we deal with a lot with water in these ocean literacy principles, which is great, and it's really fun with the kids because it makes a little bit of a mess. Do have towels and things nearby, but anyway, this one, ocean makes Earth habitable. This comes back down to the core part of oxygen and actually being able to have life on our planet. If a lot of times when you intro to kids, you say like, where does oxygen come from? And a lot of people bring out trees, leaves, plants, right? And that's great. And they do produce that oxygen and they're really important, but oxygen on our planet didn't necessarily come from plants originally. They are kind of the secondary producers of that oxygen. So our oceans, and specifically our phytoplankton in our oceans, are what gave Earth its first little breath of oxygen, I guess, and have produced way more oxygen than our trees and plants, which is cool. About 50%, depending on who you ask, 50 to 60% of oxygen on the planet comes from our oceans. So our phytoplanktons and our algae in our ocean. This reverse race activity is really fun because you get to have the kids or your students build their own plankton. So you can go ahead and read through some of it. We have clay that we just bought at warehouse. Came in little balls. It's just oven dried clay. You have to bake it so it doesn't dry out. Don't get air dried clay because you use it once and it's gone. But each kid gets a piece of clay, or each group gets a piece of clay, and you can add other things into it like toothpicks or paper clips or pieces of sea glass, whatever it is. And those are all the materials that they get to use to make a plankton. Now, I also brought with me, so you can all see, and it's great when you're in your classroom or with your students to have some pictures of plankton, and you can kind of have a little bit of an idea of what shapes plankton come in. Okay, in our phytoplankton, you can give them this and be like, huh, okay, those are kind of really cool. Maybe we'll try and replicate what some of those images are like, and they can actually make some of their, I'm not sure you can see my screen's a little bit farther back, but that's okay. So we have some fun different plankton shapes. Now, why plankton come in different shapes is because they want to maximize the surface area that they have, because they want to be near the surface of the water. Because they're phytoplanktons, they're primary producers, they're getting their energy from the sun, converting that energy through photosynthesis and releasing oxygen. And they have to be at the surface in order to get that energy from the sun. So plankton need to be able to stay at the surface. And what you can do with this activity is try and have the student, well, it can be done in different ways. You can do just plankton Olympics, reverse race, which team's plankton drops the slowest in the bucket. You can do an inquiry-based lesson where you are showing them the different shapes. They get to try and make that shape and then like drop it in and see which shape works best. And they can record data and do trials, and it can be really great. Something with this one, the reverse race, you can add a little bit of extra difficulties if you add like marbles. If you add one marble to your plankton, that is a phytoplankton because that has a little bit less mass, a little bit less to do than if you're doing a zooplankton or an animal-based plankton. They get two marbles because they are animal-based and they are a little bit heavier. And then you can just go ahead and drop them into the different or the containers. We have just a picture here dropping in, and you just see how well they go up and down. So you can see that one was pretty good, actually. The purple one was cool. Some of them just don't necessarily work really well, and they just sink really fast. And if you bring in the timer into this, they have to be quick. Here at MERC, we have a pretty big container, so we can actually get a handful of seconds before they drop instead of just, a bucket like this. But these still work, and the kids can get creative, and you can use different things. You can make an air bubble inside of your plankton as well, which is kind of cool. I'll do one really quick. I just trapped an air bubble in there, and even as a little round one, it can still actually use that air bubble to drop in. And again, have the kids come up with different designs. Once they drop it, how can they improve it? How can they come back? What is surface area? How does that help things drop a little bit slower? It's a really fun hands-on activity that could be a quick 5-minute demo, or it could also be a really long inquiry-based lesson with different trials and data collection and all that stuff. That's Ocean Literacy Principle number 4, which is awesome. And we're going to move to Ocean Literacy Principle number 5. We're going to intro it really quick, and then we have a great video next. So Ocean Literacy Principle number 5. The ocean supports a great diversity of life in our ecosystems. The majority of time when people think about ocean literacy principle or even like marine science, they jump right to marine biology, which is cool because the animals in the ocean are the coolest. So OLP 5 is where a lot of people kind of gravitate to. So if you do any lessons already about ocean animals or adaptations or habitat that animals live in the ocean, you're already ticking a lot of boxes for like ocean literacy principle number 5, which is really, really awesome. And I'll turn it back over to Sara, and she can talk about the video that we're going to show you all.
So, all right. Thanks so much, Patrick. I'm going to I have seen, I want to just acknowledge one thing. If the links on the PDF are not working, it's just because I compressed the PDF in order for it to be able to be downloaded by the Zoom platform, and that seems to have disabled some stuff. Don't worry, we will get you a guide with all the working links. If not today, definitely tomorrow. And without further ado, I am going to start this video from Rika to introduce some of the stuff that is in the guide that relates to the MSC's Te Kawa O Tangaroa, Te Kawa O Tangaroa Ocean-Centered Learning Platform. And I will just get that going right now for you guys. And like I said, we will email you guys the guide, and the guide will also be available to download from the Seaweek website from tomorrow. So just give me a second. Here we go.
Kia ora, e te whānau. My name's Rika and I work for the Marine Stewardship Council, and I'm here today to support the team at Seaweek and Blake MERC, who have created this wonderful teacher guide with ocean literacy principles, and they've connected some of their activities to some of our resources. So I'm going to be talking to you about some activities that we have and just giving you a few more ideas of things that you can do in your classroom to teach ocean literacy. I'm just going to share my screen. And I thought, firstly, let's just talk about the Marine Stewardship Council for a moment. So I'm sure you've all heard of them, but just in case you haven't, they're an international not-for-profit. They're on a mission to end overfishing, and they've got a beautiful vision that the world's oceans will be teeming with life. And the way that they do their work is that they set a standard for sustainable fishing. And so companies have to make improvements to their fisheries so that they meet the standard. And once they've done that, then they get certified and they get the blue fish tick. So here's a tin of tuna. It's got a blue fish tick on it. So you can go to the supermarket, you can check out some of the tinned food and frozen food. Some of it has a Marine Stewardship Council blue fish tick and some doesn't. One of the great things about the Marine Stewardship Council is that they've invested quite substantially in some teaching and learning resources around ocean sustainability here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So you can see from the slide that there's a big variety of topics that is covered by Te Kawa O Tangaroa. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of activities, and one of them comes from the ecology section, and the other one comes from protecting the marine environment. And at the end of this little session, I'm going to take you for a little tour of the homepage of Te Kawa O Tangaroa, just to show you some different ways that you can find things and navigate your way to some of the resources that we're going to be talking about. So, firstly, we have a variety of resources. We have PowerPoints, we have Kahoot quizzes, activities, worksheets, little video clips. So quite a variety of things that you can access. And I thought as we're going through, we just showcase a couple of those things. So in the marine ecology section, which is very relevant for teaching ocean literacy principle number 5, which is about marine biodiversity. One of the things that we look at is what makes a fish a fish. So why is a fish and not a mammal or a nudibranch or a mollusk? So there are some slides and some activities that are around that. And once we've got our head around what makes a fish, then we can start thinking about the diversity of fishes. So we've got a wild variety of fishes in the ocean. We have things as big as whale sharks and as small as tiny triple fins, but they're all fish. And once we've started to think about diversity, then we might think about some of the different body shapes and features on a fish and how that can actually tell us something. It's like telling a bit of a story about the fish. So the shape of the body, the shape of the eyes, the location of the eyes, the shape of the tail, all these things tell us a few things about where the fish lives, how it likes to live, what it feeds upon, and how it feeds. So one of the things that we have in Te Kawa O Tangaroa, which has been linked for you in the teacher guide. So down here in the teacher guide, there's a link to fish adaptation keys and a lesson plan, which includes those adaptation keys. So I just thought I would showcase this for you. There's 3 simple scientific keys here. One is around fish body shapes. So that can give us some clues about where and how a fish lives. So if a fish is a torpedo shape, then it's most likely that it lives in the open water and it swims fast. If it's a flat fish, then it's quite likely that it might live on a sandy bottom. We can also look at the location of the eyes and the shape of the eyes of a fish, and that might give us some clues also as to where that fish spends most of its time. So if it has eyes on either side of its head, then it might be that it's swimming in the open water because it's got its eyes on full alert, blue water all around. If it's got eyes on the top of its head, it's more likely that it will be living on the sea floor. We can also look at the shape and the location of a fish's mouth, and that might tell us something too, and also whether it has teeth. So big pointy teeth will tell us something about what it eats. If it has a mouth on the underside of its body, then it's more likely that it's going to live on the bottom. So we can learn a lot about fishes just by exploring some of their body features. So, of course, you're going to answer all of these correctly. But while you're thinking about the answers to these and which habitat these fishes come from based on their body shapes and their eyes and their mouths, I thought I'd just mention to you that there are lots of different ways in Te Kawa O Tangaroa that we have for having a bit of fun around just testing what it is that we've learned. So we have slides like this, we have quizzes, and then we also have some fun questions that come at the end of worksheets. So of course you're going to get all the answers right. Congratulations. There's a couple of QR codes here. So the one on the left will take you to some lesson plans that are all around marine ecology, and the one on the right will take you to all of our marine ecology resources. But once again, at the end of this session, I'm just going to take you on a tour of the homepage so that you can work out how to find those things for yourself. So I thought I'd also just mention that we at the MSC, or the Marine Stewardship Council, have also worked with the House of Science. So some of you might be member schools with the House of Science. There are 2 kits which we have worked together with House of Science to create. One of them is an Antarctic resource, and that one we released last year. There are some great activities in there around Ocean Literacy Principle number 5 and the diversity of life. So one of them is looking at Antarctic food webs. There's another one with a giant penguin, looking at all the different penguins that exist there. And then there's also a very fun activity where students get to measure and visibly see how much krill a baleen whale will eat in a day. The other kit is the Big Blue Future kit. And one of the activities in that extends quite nicely on from what is in the teacher guide. So there's an activity in the teacher guide around the diversity of life, Ocean Literacy Principle number 5, which is all about building a fish. So you could also add to that, if you are a House of Science member school, then you'll be able to access these very ones, but otherwise you could create something which is similar. So something nice and simple, just cutting up some pictures of fishes and then getting students to design their own fish. And from that, they could work out what kind of habitat that fish might live in and what it might eat, how it might feed. And then we can also add to that some eyes. So you can buy different sized eyes from Spotlight or some of the $2 shops. So a little bit of fun with that. Okay, so the second activity that I'm going to talk about is related to the Ocean Literacy Principle number 6. So this one is about ocean and humans and how we are inextricably connected and interconnected with the ocean. So there is a great activity here, which comes from Te Kawa O Tangaroa, which is a string game showing how creatures in the ocean and humans are all intertwined through food webs. But when we're thinking about the food web, we're also, I guess, bringing up the fact that humans like to go fishing and they like to eat things from the ocean. So down here at the bottom in the middle, there is a link to a game called Bycatch in a Bucket. So I thought I'd just talk about that for a moment. Now, when I do this activity with students, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to stop sharing the screen so you can see it a little bit more clearly. So when I do this activity with students, my bucket is actually a big metal bucket, and sometimes I put a cloth over the top, or we blindfold students depending on the age and the level that we're working with. And inside my bucket, I would have a whole variety of different fish species and some sea creatures. Sea creatures, if you're wanting to buy some, you can get them from the local toy shop. So these ones came from Toy World, pretty reasonably priced. In this ocean, for my fish, I've just got counters, but sometimes I've used bottle tops, all sorts of different variety of fish beings. So the first thing I guess that we want to understand about humans and fishing is that we generally have a target species. So in this case, we're going to make our target species the little white counters, so the little white fish. when we go fishing, we just want to catch a little whitefish or some little whitefish. But unfortunately, when we put our net or our fishing gear into the ocean, it's not quite as simple as that. So we put our net in or we put our line in to try and catch a few white counters, and lo and behold, we've got all sorts of different creatures and different fish. And so these different creatures and the fish which are not the white counters are called our bycatch. So that's the first piece of learning, I guess, is that you can't see what it is that you're going to catch. You can't help but catch some bycatch. But there are some things that we can do about how much bycatch we catch. So we could change the fishing method. So at the moment, we're using a big net. Now, if we actually went in here also and went hell for leather, we'd probably empty the ocean very quickly and we would have a lot of bycatch. But we could change our fishing method. So simple spoon, or you can use chopsticks or some tongs. And by changing our fishing method, and of course, we're not going to be able to look in the ocean, we're going to end up with a lot less bycatch with this particular fishing method. So that's the second piece of learning. If you wanted to extend this further, you could also add in some other controls and you could start to think about sustainable fishing. So when we're talking about sustainable fishing, we're really talking about fishing which doesn't impact on other sea creatures that live in the ocean, that doesn't impact on the habitat in a negative way. We're also talking about fishing that is sustainable, so we're not taking too many fish out of the ocean. And the Marine Stewardship Council also considers that sustainable fishing is fishing that has a good management system. So if we want to consider how much fish we're taking out of the ocean, then we could make this into a little learning exercise by timing how long it took to empty the ocean with this net. It's not going to take very long. So we could then change our fishing method to reduce the amount of fish that we're catching out of the ocean. And the other thing that we could do is we could introduce some controls. So we could time, for example, how long it took to take a certain amount of fish out of our ocean using our different methods. And our controls might be that we have a certain season when we're going fishing, that we're using a certain method for our fishing. And in this way, we can ensure that the fishing is sustainable. So that's just a little introduction into that bycatch in a bucket and a little thought about how to think about sustainable fishing when you're teaching ocean literacy. I'm just going to share my screen again. And this time, we're going to have a quick look at the homepage. So this is the homepage for Te Kawa O Tangaroa. A quick way to get to it is that you could type in msc.org with a /Tangaroa. And if we scroll down, we're going to see that there is an option to subscribe to our newsletter, which comes out once a month. And every month I go in there and I put up some latest news. So our webinar is on there at the moment, Sea Week information, and some of our latest resources. And here we come down to where the topics are. So the resources that I showed you to start with around marine ecology are located in this marine ecology section. And if we come down a little bit further, we've got resources for the bycatch in a bucket and looking at some of the other impacts of fishing in this protecting the marine environment section. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we've also got another way of searching for resources with this A to Z. So you could type in a topic like bycatch and go and find all the resources that are related to bycatch if you follow that link there. Further down, we also have some other ways of searching resources. So we've grouped all of our PowerPoints together if you click on this link, so you can access them all on a page there. And then there are unit plans and lesson plans on another page, Kahoot quizzes, some resources which are useful when teaching mā tauranga Māori or wanting to incorporate mā tauranga into your teaching, local curriculum contexts. So there's quite a variety of different ways that you can search for different resources. And I'm just going to go right down to the bottom where finally there is a section at the bottom of the page which is focused on some key moments in the calendar, one of which is Sea Week. So if you click on these links, then it will take you to a set of resources that are going to be useful for each of those days. Okay, I'm just going to close that, and I'm just going to share my screen once more time. And here's a QR code for Te Kawa O Tangaroa. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that we're also in the process of developing a directory for teachers, which is going to have most of the main organisations which are involved in ocean literacy that are going to be useful for teaching. They produce education resources or they offer experiences that are educational. And we will have that up on our website and on the Sea Week website in time for Sea Week. Okay, if you'd like to contact me, my email address is there, and there's also a QR code here to join up to our newsletter. I'm going to hand it back now to the team at Blake MERC. Ka kite anō.
Thank you, Rika. That was awesome. So we will send that video out tomorrow when we follow up with everyone. We're just gonna wrap things up by going over, like, you guys will have the guide, so you'll be able to look at Principle 5 and Principle 6, which Rika touched on just before. And you'll be able to look at them and explore them, and all the links, which will be live as soon as we get a new version out to you. Principle 7 is really exciting, and we have so many resources that there's so many great resources out there that connect to Principle 7 to help kids get a deeper understanding of how huge our deep ocean is and how much of it is still unexplored. So we have an activity which dives into ocean zones and can give a little bit more insight into the different challenges that various organisms face in these different zones and how they overcome those challenges and thrive. So we're gonna just skip to summarize and see if you've got any questions. If you do have any questions right now, pop them in the Q&A while I'm just doing this summary. And we will be sure, even if we can't answer them right this moment, we can follow up with you and make sure to get you that information. So in summary, why is ocean literacy important for us? Because the ocean is all around us, and all New Zealanders live within 120 k's of the sea. And we realize it, whether we realize it or not, the ocean influences our lives every day, everyone's lives every day. And you can include ocean literacy throughout all of the different disciplines of learning, from reading and writing to maths, and especially maths. And it empowers people to understand the vital role that the ocean plays in our planet's climate, ecosystems, and overall health. And so those are just some of the reasons why we really think that you should try and incorporate ocean literacy into your classroom this year.